Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to be making this mattress, and it is going to fit onto the little bed that I made in the last video. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a link in the description below. And this is one that I made quite a while ago, so I'll hopefully remember how I put it together. Anyway, I'm sure it can't be too difficult. But first of all, we're going to use this fabric, which is going to be more like a sort of a ticking stripe. And so to begin with, what I've got is 2 layers of foam core board. So this is 5mm or 1/4 of an inch. So we've got basically half an inch thick. So two layers together. This is just an offcut that I had, and that is going to fit quite nicely onto the bed. Now I do notice that this one is a little bit rounded on the corners, so I'm going to give that a go and just sort of cut off the corners just to kind of round it out. I'm just going to freehand this. Let's have a look. Yeah, I think that's probably all I've done there. So what I want is I want the stripe to go long ways. What I've got here is just a bit of thin sort of quilt batting, and I'm just going to glue onto the top here. I'm just going to put some glue around the outside, because what I don't want to do is take away from the stitching that we're going to need to put through. Okay, so for the fabric, what I'm going to do is run a bead of glue right around the outside of the mattress, not on the top, because I don't want any of the glue to come through. And then I'm just going to lay the fabric on the top and then gently push the fabric around and push it into the glue around the sides. So I want the top to be reasonably loose, so that when the buttoning comes through, it'll add a little bit more of a padding on the top. And then I'm just going to cut the corners and then push the corners down into some more glue. So, and then once I've done all of that, then I can just cut off any excess, and then it is good to go. And then I'm just going to pop that aside to dry. So moving on to the actual detail of the mattress, what I'm going to do is actually create a little bit of a pattern. I'm going to draw a grid on a scrap piece of paper, and then through that grid I'm going to mark out where all of the buttons are going to go. Oh, that worked out really well. Okay, and that's what the pattern's going to look like on top of the mattress. And so what we need to do now is grab a needle and some thread. I'm probably going to go with the blue one, and we just want to cut a few length. Let's just try that. And then I just want to grab a needle and something that's reasonably long, and threading the cotton through the eye of the needle. I'm just going to take the pattern and use that as a guide, and then push the needle all the way through the mattress, right the way through to the other side. And then I'm going to reverse the stitch basically, or reverse the needle, and push that through back from the underside. And then I'm going to try and tie a little knot. So one of the ways that I'm going to do that is this, wrapping the thread around the needle and then pulling that through. And then once that's created a little knot, what I can do then is create a little stitch and push the needle all the way back through to the other side of the mattress, and then just pull that a little bit tight, and then that'll give me that button effect. And then just to hold the threads in the back, I'm just going to use a little bit of tape just to tape it off. Okay, so I've got one more left to do, and I just thought I'd just go over the process again. So just cutting off a length of thread, threading that through the needle, and then I'm doubling over the thread. So once I've got it through the needle, I'm just going to bring the two ends together at the bottom, so that we've got two layers or two threads. I've already pre-poked a hole, so I'm just going to poke that up through. We're going to pull that through till there's a bit of a tail, so just about that much on the bottom there, so it's about that much there, so just enough to kind of stop it from coming through. And then I'm just going to loop the thread around, and what I want to do is get that tail and I want to wrap that around the end of the needle, and I'm going to wrap it around 5 times because that's the same that I've done for all of them, so it's a bit hard to see. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So we've got some loops round on this part of the needle, and we've still got that thread through there. I'm just going to pull that tight just to make sure we don't have any loops in there, and then I'm just going to put my fingers over that where the loops go round the end of the needle just to hold it in place. And what this is going to do is this thread is going to go through those loops, and what it's going to do is create a nice little knot. That one's got a little bit of a loop in it, but that's okay. So what we want to do is just make sure that this thread isn't going to pull through, so just pull it back through the other way, and then just stitch back, not necessarily back in the same hole, but just virtually right next to it. And then what we want to do is just pull that through and pull that nice and tight, and that's where we get our little, almost like a faux button. Well, at this scale it's a faux button anyway. So then I'm just going to cut that thread in half just to release the needle, and then just with a bit of tape I'm just going to pull those threads together, pull them tight, lay them flat, and then pop some tape on the top, and then that's just going to pull in that little bit there. So now we can move on to covering the back of it. So we've just got this piece here, so I'm just going to put this onto the back, and again I'm just going to glue up around the sides. I have to say, not that this was purposeful, but all of the buttons have ended up on the lines of the fabric, so that was quite lucky. That was not intentional. So I'm just going to pull those ends over and pull a little bit more, pull it reasonably tight with a bit of tension on it. I do want the underside of the mattress to be quite tight as opposed to the top. And then of course if there is any excess I'll cut that away. So I don't want the base or the underside of the mattress cover to come up any higher than halfway up the side of the mattress. And what I'm going to do is create a ribbon type of thing that will be going all the way around the outside. So I'm not too worried about how neat and tidy that is. It's going to get all covered up. And then what I'm going to do is the really long strip of fabric that I cut, I'm actually going to fold that in on both sides, and I've just got a little iron, so I'm just going to iron that, put a bead of glue down it, and then as the iron touches the glue, or doesn't actually touch the glue, but actually heats up the glue, it basically sets straight away. So it's a way of setting up the fabric immediately. And then I'm just going to run a bead of glue all the way around the outside, and then finish it off by cutting the end off and then just putting a bit of glue on the very end, which will help free check it into place, and it shouldn't actually go anywhere. So I'm just going to cut off some extra pieces. I'll just push in some of the sides just to make sure that that's nice and flat. But there we go, that's another little mattress done. So we've got 2 of them. That's turned out really well. I really hope that you've enjoyed that video. If you have, give it a thumbs up and hit that like button. And until next time everyone, bye for now. So this is a 3D printed bed, which all I've done is I actually created the base for it off Tinkercad and just basically glued it together, and then I've painted it at the same time as I painted the other one. So this mattress is actually for this bed, which is actually quite a cool little bed. Got some really neat little details on it. Not too sure if I'll keep these on it, but they can just stay there for now. But that is the mattress that's going with this bed, which is really cool. And then the other one, which I made the other day, is this one. And so that mattress goes really nicely on that one. So we've got two beds here, which are very, very cool.